Hello, my name is Ruth Nelson, and welcome to this week's Master Coaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz and our after show, Buzz Reaction, both hosted by John Foreman. Our most recent guests were coaches from the Big Ten, Pac-12, and the WCC conferences. These coaches gave us an overview of how COVID has affected their fall training and their expectations for the upcoming spring NCAA Division I championship. Big discussion was around not having a fall competition schedule, NIL, name, image, and likeness, and how virtual online recruiting has taken over. Our news flash. D1 Volleyball Championships will be hosted in Omaha, Nebraska, April 22nd through the 24th. But all of us are waiting to hear, is the January 1, 2021 dead period going to be lifted or extended? We are now seeing more conferences forming working groups to prepare institutions as they put NIL framework in place and when the rule goes in effect next year after the vote in January at the 2021 NCAA convention. Men's collegiate volleyball has 242 programs, which includes D1, 2, 3, NIA, and junior colleges. Boys volleyball is the #1 fastest growing team sport in America, with 63,000 boys currently playing in high school. To get more information on boys and men's programs, go to firstpointvolleyball.com. For the most recent updates on the conferences playing this fall, head over to our Instagram account, click on our bio, and listen to Mondays with Mick. Did you know Brian Gemolero, AVCA Coach of the Year and twice Volleyball Magazine National Coach of the Year. Bob Bertucci earned Patriot and Atlantic 10 Coach of the Year. And Mick Haley, AVCA and Volleyball Magazine National Coach of the Year. All we'd be asking our guests to provide some background on how they got started in volleyball and where they are now and what suggestions they might have for coaches and especially those coaches transitioning from assistant to a head coaching role. First, let's head over to Austin, Texas, where our AVCA Hall of Fame coach, Mick Haley, will introduce our guest today. Mick?
Well, thank you, Ruth. And I always start with, did you know that Ruth Nelson was our favorite Hall of Fame coach of the whole group here and head coach of 3 Division I schools, as well as assistant coach and player on our national team. So Ruth, thank you for those nice introductions. It's my pleasure to introduce 2 guests today. We want to get started to hear from these folks. First is Nicole Davis. And Nicole is a 2-time national championship player from USC, 2-time Olympian, which I'm sure she is extremely proud of, and almost got that gold medal, really pushed the team to nth degrees, and now is a mindset coach with Compete to Create, a group that she'll talk a little bit about with all of us. And Sean Huiet, the head coach at Texas State University, who's a first-year coach guiding his squad through this COVID pandemic and playing in conference and beating up on people with a 16-1 record so far. So welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to start with Nicole. And Nicole, I'm just going to give you an easy one. Can you give us a short background and explain what your position is currently and how you got in this vocation?
Sure. I retired from the national team in 2015 and kind of didn't know what to do. I had a degree from political science from USC, and I remember saying out loud, I will never go back to school. And I happened to get teamed up with a company called Compete to Create. It was co-founded by Pete Carroll, and for those of you who don't know him, he's the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and Mike Gervais, who's a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of California who specializes in high performance, high consequential environments. And when I first started with Compete to Create, we were working entirely with Fortune 500 companies. And we've since expanded our offerings to individuals and to smaller organizations and businesses, as well as teams. And really what we're doing is bringing the collective IP of those 2 co-founders. So Pete's IP is in developing high performing cultures. And then Dr. Mike's IP is really grounded in the psychology of high performance. And so what happened for me is I was in this and I was working with, for example, Microsoft, and I started to have more science and language to put to my experiences playing on the Olympic team. And for me, like I was a 2-time Olympian before I learned that you could formally train your mind. And there were many occasions on the national team where I was wearing a USA jersey where it almost felt like I was leaving it up to chance how I was showing up. So I started sharing my stories because I was on the applied side of the science at the time. And there was just something about the way it was resonating with people. And there was something about how people gravitated towards psychology and gravitated towards this idea of like thriving and optimization. But it's been something we've ignored both in sport and in corporate environments. We double down on training craft and we double down on training our bodies, and we infrequently take the time to invest in the psychology of performance. So I reached a point where I was like overwhelmed by how much more I wanted to learn about psychology. So I'm in my second year of a doctoral program doing clinical psychology and really in the deep end of the science. And what I was quite averse to going into, which was disease and dysfunction, but I think it matters. I think if we want to understand thriving and optimization, then we need to understand the other side of the human experience.
Wow.
Okay, well, thanks. Brian, I'll pass to you.
I'm just sitting here listening and thinking how much you could help us. You know, I know this group.
I know this
Sean,
group.
Yeah, Sean, you know, we have a pre-production meeting on Mondays, the four of us, and we come up with what we're going to talk about. And what you were fascinating because you're a first-year coach, and we were wondering what you could tell other first-year coaches, what you learned and how you're doing, especially after being 14 years as an assistant coach. But so many people who listen to us are new coaches. And we were wondering what you had to say. But in our pre-production meeting, Bob said, at 16-1, maybe we shouldn't say much. Maybe he should talk because we could really screw him up,
Yeah, please don't jinx this. I'm going to knock on wood there for a second.
Yeah, we're hoping that we're not going to screw you up. So we're going to listen to you more than you listen to us. It's been a long time since we were first-year coaches.
That's what Mick had said to me. And I joke with everyone. I'm like, be a head coach. They said, it'll be fun. This is what you work for, right? And then COVID happened. So the hardest and the biggest thing is just the unknown. It's been so fluid. Things are changing every day. We're sitting here right now. We're supposed to leave at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and we won't know for about another hour if everyone's healthy and can go. And so all the unknown stuff. And so luckily for me, I'm pretty laid back. I'm pretty easygoing. And so not having to have it a set way. And with it being my first year, I think that's made it a little bit easier with the new staff. And you just don't know. Like our first weekend, we went out with 10 and a half kids. One kid was injured, but the trainer was like, if she has to play, she has to play. We had a middle play outside. And so we've been really working with our team, and just hearing Nicole for a little bit, I'm like, I'm already signing up for whatever she's doing, because the mental side of it has been so crazy with not knowing. You get a call and a kid saying she has to quarantine for 14 days, then they have to try to get back in the gym, then and all the unknown has probably been the hardest. But kind of being, hey, this is our team met, their goals were the same. They wanted, if the Sun Belt was playing, they wanted to three-peat. They wanted to get back to the NCAA tournament, and those goals didn't change. So what we're doing in the gym has been similar, but we're just a little bit more low-key on some things that we're not we can't control a lot of what's going on. So we say every day, control what we can control. Everything else is going to play, and that's how it is. So crazy times.
Yeah, how about the coaching itself? That's a really unique experience. But just let's say it's next year. Let's say things are better. What do you feel about the, being a new coach? What are your concerns, or what do you feel? How can you help new people?
I think one of the things that's been, with the COVID and everything, one is that we talked. I've never been a part where every kid has played significant minutes on our team. There's sometimes you have a lot of role players or people down the bench that, we have to be ready for everyone to go. And so it's kind of helped build relationships in a different way with people that are different roles on the team. It's made I'm uber competitive. Obviously, I want to win a lot of matches, but also be able to look at the long haul of like, we need to be really good at the end of this. And we don't know, like in 2 weeks, if we test before we go to the conference tournament and someone can't go, we need everyone to have that court experience. And so kind of has helped the training and the mindset, I think, for future years for me to be like, hey, everyone is so valuable in different ways. But this year it's like everyone, like I said, we played all 18 kids back-to-back weekends because we don't know what's going to happen. We need them to have game experience. We need them to have that. And it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, Bob's got some serious questions for you.
I'm going to start first with Nicole because a mindset coach, I'm not really sure what a mindset coach is. How does it differ from a sports psychologist?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for anyone to call themselves a psychologist, they should be a licensed psychologist. And so what a sports psychologist is typically is a licensed clinical psychologist that has specialized in sports. A mindset coach is someone who has a background, whether it's a master's degree. Typically, it's a master's degree in sports psychology. But really, mindset is like the way we think about things. And the way we think about things drives our emotions and our behaviors, and that's what drives performance. And so a mindset coach is someone who is looking to optimize the way we think and understand ourselves, and to train skills. So sometimes with psychology, you get into like talk therapy, and talking is nice. It diffuses some things, but then it doesn't allow for skill building. And so in the same way that like in sport, we teach skills and then we do drills for repetitions, for skill building, mindset coaches will do the same thing. Like self-talk, which is the essence of confidence, is something you can actually build as a skill. And so that's what mindset coaches will do. And it differs from a sports psychologist in that sports psychologists can get into clinical issues. So general anxiety, major depressive disorders, personality disorders, which quite frankly are part of elite performers. But the clinical psychologists or sports psychologists can get into that aspect of clinical issues, whereas a mindset coach will just look at the optimization piece.
So is it more similar to a team builder or a leadership coach?
Yeah, to be honest, Bob, I don't even know what the hell a team builder is. A leadership coach. So I'll say this, most individuals who have some sort of certification in leadership, the psychology of performance is not necessarily robust in the training of that. And so someone who is a mindset coach should have a robust understanding of the theory of performance.
So how do you actually measure the relative success, and balance out the time you put into this as a coach, all right, as a volleyball coach, the time you'll spend out of your training for this as it translates into success on the court?
Yeah, I love that question. If I'm working with a team or an organization, what I'm looking for are things like, is there psychological safety as part of the culture, right? So is there psychological safety? Do people feel like they can go for it and there won't be personal repercussions for it, like their character won't be attacked? Is vulnerability demonstrated? Is there a willingness to hold self and others accountable? And why those matters is it means there's trust inherent in the organization as part of the culture. And we know that trust is really important for success. The other thing I'm looking for, like, do the individuals on the team or in the organization, do they feel like there's a sense of meaning and purpose in what they're doing? Because what I know to be really true is if you can't connect to meaning and something bigger than yourself, then when stuff gets difficult, you're going to take care of you first, or you're going to bail too early. And so I want to know if there's meaning and purpose, if there's a subjective experience of that. And then if I'm working with an individual, quite frankly, I hope they never need me again. Like there are certain therapists that want their clients to come back over and over. That means I'm not doing my job if you still need me a year from now or 2 years from now, because that means that we haven't been able to generalize skills well enough for you to go get yourself in challenging and adverse moments and have what it takes. So I'm really looking for like teams and organizations to no longer need me at some point. And that's how I define success.
Out of business, Nicole.
Yeah, this is we got to work with you on a business plan here.
Trust me, there's enough to go around.
yeah, that's true.
Well, Sean, before I, punt to Ruth, I got one other thing I got to just relate to you. I don't know how you're doing it right now. And I'm glad you're doing such a good job, because just today, I found out about 4 guys on my team, that can't be at practice, so they're going to be out for 14 days. All right. And we're not playing any games right now. I can't imagine how you're dealing with that and the psychology behind, handling it with the players. So speak to that a little bit more for us, especially for anybody that might be in the same situation.
No, definitely. That's what we keep saying. Like, everyone needs to be ready, prepare. The unknown is so crazy in this right now. And a couple weeks ago, we were, we were in that first preseason top 15, and then we didn't play for 2 weeks. So then we dropped out, and then Louisiana jumped up, and they were undefeated. We were going to their place, and the day before we left, my 0-1 and my top sub tested positive and couldn't go. And that's where I say, like, the trust and I talked to 03, I talked to this person, like, here we go. It doesn't matter. We're still winning. Our goals didn't change because so-and-so can't go. Y'all said at the beginning of the season, our goals weren't changing. So everyone has to be ready to step in. And so it's hard on the mental side for us, because we literally 6 hours before you get ready to get on the bus, you find out someone can't go. But we've just tried to remain uber positive, and it is what it is, and we're so thankful to be playing. There's a lot of people that aren't playing, and they're missing it, and they're dealing with other mental things with that. And so I think the mental side of it is huge right now. We have been trying to really reach out to our athletes. They're trying to stay in this bubble, but they're also college athletes. They're college students. They want to also be college students, but they can't. Like, our poor freshmen, literally last week, we were trying to check in with them, and they're like, do you think this is going to be next year? And we were like, oh, we don't know. And they're like, we don't know anyone. The only friends we have is people on the team, like, because classes are online. They haven't met people. And, we have a kid from California. We have a kid from, and so it's just, that side of it has been, we just keep saying we can't control all of this, but we are going to be ready to do what we have to do. And it's hard. It hasn't been easy, but like I said, I'm pretty laid back. I'm pretty easygoing. And so we're trying to enjoy it and have as much fun as we can. When, we get called, someone can't be at practice or do this. Okay. We adjust on the fly. But yeah, I think the way the coach and the leaders kind of set that up, if I was so stressed out all the time and kind of freaking out about everything, I think the team could, but we're not. I can't control all that. I can't do it. And so, was it crazy 2 weeks before we were playing not to know where we were staying, how we were traveling, what was going on? Absolutely. Did I not sleep? Yes, I did. But I didn't show that to them, and I didn't, put this freak out mode in front so everyone could, follow my lead. It's just been like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And so.
Okay. Oh boy, okay, now I get to get my questions.
Okay.
All right. So Sean, I'm telling you from what you just said, you probably are going to be a good poker player, because you've learned not to show anything except optimism, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, you've listened to Nicole, you've listened to our questions, and it's like we all, well, I can't say for Brian and Bob, they're younger than Mick and I'm not going to say which one's
much younger, much
Mick and I. But we had to go back and learn psychology, and I have a psychology degree as my minor, almost a double major. And I'm thinking back and I'm saying, all right, what would you do to spend your time now to become better at being a leader? And obviously you've been a great leader, but what would you do after you've listened to Nicole talk? Just a few, and then I'm going to jump to Nicole for her to kind of give some input, but I'm interested in what you have really listened to and said, I didn't think of that,
Yeah, no, I definitely would hire Nicole. That would be my first. So that would be the first move. But for me, it's been a lot of reaching out to mentors and people that have done it longer than I. I picked Mick's brain about some things at time, and just, I don't think anyone, I keep saying, like, I was ready to be a head coach. That was my goal. That's what I wanted, but I didn't know when I became a head coach, everything that went with it. And then everything that went with it on top of COVID and on top of that. And so I don't think there was anything else that could have prepared me. But I do see the mindset side of it. And I do a lot of the team building and some of that stuff. And I think the off court and the gym culture go hand in hand with what you're doing in the gym. And so like when she was saying some of those things that she looks for in a team, my team has that. Our culture here at Texas State, like every single kid, even after the 5.5 months off, came back touching the same. They left in the same shape. They didn't just sit around on their couch and do anything. And so, but it hasn't been easy. And so I've said to my athletes every day, like, I know this is hard. I know what you're going through is not fun. I know your parents not being able to come to a match isn't the best, but this is where we are, you know? And so I'm ready to pick Nicole's brain after we got off this call for more things, but the mental side, I've always used that and I know that, but I wouldn't say I've been overly into the mental side of it, and hearing her talk and what she's saying has really made me really focus on that. Kat Osterman was our former Olympic pitcher, and she was a softball coach here at Texas State. So I've been on the phone and emails and stuff with her about some of that stuff as well. And she's talked to our team. So
you've expanded your role models and your mentors.
100%.
Is there anybody that's been a big surprise to you as a player that maybe you didn't think they would be tough through this, that you've seen new characteristics from some of the players that you never saw before on the court that have been strong during this time?
Not shockingly, our team is pretty, our culture here, again, I was here for 14 years with Coach Chisholm and Tracy and kind of built that. Our team is kind of that. I think our team's kind of taken it and run with it. You know, it hasn't knocked them off their rocker. And I think that just has spoken volumes of what was set up here even before I took over.
Okay, boy, that sounds great. Okay, so Nicole, now you've gotten to hear what he's had to say. What are some of the things that not only for Sean, but any coach that's out there and any coaches that happen to be moving up to be head coaches? Because some people, just Brian's assistant, Debbie Green, she said she wanted to be an assistant. She didn't want to be a head coach. Denise Corlett said she wanted to be an assistant, not a head coach. But Sean, for some reason, he wanted to be a head coach, and I'm not so sure he's thinking about that decision. But what would you say, Nicole?
Yeah, I actually just, Sean, what I'm hearing from you, which is a common characteristic of high-performing coaches, is that you're deliberately building culture. And a lot of coaches miss the mark with that. It's not just about buy-in, it's about messaging. And I'm hearing from you that the messaging is so consistent. And part of that messaging is not just like the bigger picture, which is like why we're doing things, but also you're incorporating things like control, like optimism, which are psychological skills. So you're teaching mental skills as part of like the adversity that you're going through, whether you mean to do that or not, or if like COVID's just been a forcing function of that is like, I don't know. But what I know is that like if you value culture and you understand that psychology matters, that you want to talk and teach about both every single day. And if you're not doing it every single day, then it's not going to get deep enough for the kids to actually like embody and be aligned with. And if they don't feel alignment with it and there's that disconnect, then that's when like the lack of buy-in impacts culture. It impacts like sustainability of performance over time. So that's the first part. The second part is the more that you can understand the psychology of performance, then you'll start to find that there are teachable moments around that, not just strategy, tactics, and talent and skill, you know. And like if you have an outside hitter that's a great passer and is having a streak of a couple weeks or a couple months where they're not passing, you could pinch them, or you could work to figure out what's going on with them so that they feel like you're invested in them as human beings. One, like they matter, and two, to help empower them to solve problems on their own. Because when we look at volleyball, we spend a lot of damn time preparing for what's going to happen on the court, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty organic process. And so for athletes to be able to adjust on the fly, which is one of the things that you're teaching them on the court, then they need to be able to be empowered to solve problems on our own. And too often we want to give the answers. That is a mistake that a lot of amateur coaches do. Is like, I feel hurried, I need you to do this, so I'm just going to give you the answer. And not enough questions get asked, and not enough not enough time is spent understanding how thoughts and emotions drive the performance that you're seeing. And so when I'm looking at athletes as individuals and the way they're performing, I'm looking like, where's the mistake coming from? Is it physical? They're just exhausted. They can't actually do the skill. Is it tactical or strategical? Or is it mental? Or is it luck sometimes, or some other variable, right? But there's lots of variables that contribute to mistakes. And so if you can find the coachable moments around all of them or more of them, then you've got a good chance to empower your athletes to understand like their internal experience and how that relates to the performance that you're seeing.
Wow.
I was just going to say one thing that Nicole said that kind of made, I think one thing for me that's been eye-opening as well is not the way I coach is the way I coach, but every player is different. And kind of when you have that relationship and relate, and I know how Tierney learns is different than how Madison learns, I can take that and I use that and I can understand why she might struggle in this drill, but not in that drill. And so I think that's opened my eyes a lot too of I can be who I am and coach how I am and have that philosophy, but I'm not going to baby my kids, but they're all different and their minds work different and their learning's different. And so taking that on to the court and build, like you said, building that relationship with them has really helped take that onto the court as well.
So if each of you had one thing that coaches that are out viewing or even players, what's one takeaway that you could give them to still stay positive during this time? Because we don't know. And let's go with Nicole first.
Sure. What is anxiety provoking for all of us is the unknown and uncertainty, and it's heightened right now because of COVID. And so, Sean, you're right on it. It's the control piece. Like anxiety is an excessive worry about what could go wrong in the future, which is like the heart of that is the focus on things that aren't in our control. When will this end? When am I going to make new friends? What ifs, right? The shoulds, all of it. And so the control piece and filtering, helping your athletes filter everything through the lens of like, what's in my control right now? Because that feeds directly into our ability to be resilient, bounce back from adversity, but also it feeds into like theories of learning and motivation. Control is an essential part of intrinsic motivation. So the other thing I'm hearing from young athletes right now is I don't feel motivated to like get after it right now because I don't know when I'm going to see my, like be able to play again. Well, they're
Okay.
not focused on the things.
That sounds great, Nicole. We're running a little bit on time, but we do want Sean to give a takeaway to all those viewers for us.
For us, we, like I said, control what you can control, but we've tried to look at all the positive. We said, hey, we're not going to use COVID as an excuse. It's not going to be excuses why we don't win, why we don't go to class, so we're taking all the positives away. We're still playing. We get to compete. Our academic, they get to focus a lot more on academics and even living in our bubble, more team culture and more team stuff. And so if you think of all the negatives and turn it that way, it's going to be harder to control some of that. And so stay positive and be a good mentor for your kids.
Okay, Mick, you're going to talk a little bit about next week.
Well, before I do that, you guys, this was absolutely wonderful. You both were exceptional, and I'm hoping all the coaches that tuned in today, we have between 3,000 and 6,000 people that view these webcasts, and I can't think there's one coach that wouldn't benefit from something either of you have said, but certainly Nicole, your delivery is really comfortable, and I'm sure every coach would like to put you out of business and have you at least one time, which would be fun. And Sean, we can see why you're doing well at Texas State, even as a first-year coach, because you've got the right stuff, and certainly your players are performing at a really high level. So keep it up, and thank both of you for being on. For everybody else, next week, and I love what Nicole said. She almost got it out. I'm hoping I interpreted this right, but she was saying she doesn't even know what leadership is. Did I hear you say that, Nicole? So maybe you want to tune back in, because next week we have a really interesting fellow coming on, former national championship tennis coach from the University of Texas, Jeff Moore. And Jeff has written a book, Strive Together, Achieve Beyond Expectations in a Results-Obsessed World. And he feels like we're going the wrong direction. He feels like our coaches should be empowered by our administrators. Our administrators should quit administrating and start leading. He feels that our players are not given the chance to develop leadership skills. And he thinks there's a third way. He made mention to me that certainly the Bobby Knight way was one way, and the "you're okay, I'm okay" was another way, but he seems to think there's a third way, and he would like to talk to anybody about that. But he'd also like to talk to coaches about what's happening to them, especially collegiately. And so I'm hoping everybody will tune in to hear Jeff Moore, who's very big in the leadership area and working with corporations and teams all over the country. So that's what we got for next week, Ruth.
Okay, again, thanks, Nicole and Sean. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Fall virtual clinics are now available.
Thanks, you guys.
for you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Fall
you.
virtual
Peace out.
clinics are now available for you and your team or your coaches. Please head over to our Instagram account, VB Master Coaches, click on our bio and click on the virtual clinic link, or you may scan our QR code that will take you directly to all of our information. Our weekly Buzz shows are on YouTube, and you may access these by going directly to our Instagram account. Click on the link in our bio and enjoy listening to leaders in our sport address current issues and trends. Follow us on Facebook, Volleyball Master Coaches, Instagram and Twitter, VB Master Coaches. A special shout out to our partners, SNA Sports and Baden Sports. You have 2 days left before you need to register for the 2020 AVCA Virtual Clinic and Convention, and get your first opportunity to save $50 and have the choice of small group training and career center appointments. Master Coaches will be presenting 3 sessions. Sign up today by going to avca.org. Stay on Facebook Live after our host closes our show and join our Master Coaches Buzz Reaction for an opportunity to hear and engage in our most recent talks. Now, let's go to our host, John Foreman, who will update us on his Coaching Conversations podcast series. John?
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, actually kind of related to today's discussion. The episode I had, I think 2 weeks ago with David Delozier, who Ruth knows well, was on the topic of, in his case, being a new high school coach, first time in that sort of role. And we just found out not only did his JV team win states a couple of weeks ago, but now they just won the Alabama 2A championship. So that's a good one to listen to if you're in the high school ranks. We just had an episode with Miguel Rivera from Spain on the role of assistant coaches, both from being an assistant coach and also from being a leader of them. And coming up this week, I've got Liam Sketcher, who we'll have a discussion on taking players from the youth level, juniors, high school, and making the transition to, in this case, professional. He coaches professionally in Europe and with the national team in Australia, but also in our neck of the woods to the college level. So that should be an interesting one out. You can check that out. That'll drop on Sunday. You can find it at coachingvb.com and on Apple and wherever you want to get your podcasts.